Dear students, how are you doing? I am so much happy to be with you today, again in the subject of literature and English, whereby I am going to share with you on the issue of contexts in which literature can be applied. Contexts in which literature can be applied. With you, I am Mwalimu Gordon Yohana, your literature and English teacher and English language teacher too. Now, dear students, you might be asking yourself different questions regarding the concept of context in literature, and especially when you are speaking about the issue of literature with reference to Tanzanian context or Tanzanian syllabus. Literature can be applied in a number of contexts. But what is context? Context refers to the setting, environment, or circumstance in which literature can be applied. Therefore, dear students, you might also be asking yourself questions on the place on if literature is used, where then can it be applied? Where then can you find it? Don't worry, I am going to mention and explain one by one. The following are the contexts in which literature can be applied. Number one is educational context. That means literature can be applied in educational context or educational setting. Number two, literature can be applied in the political contexts. So literature can also be applied there. Number three, literature can be applied in the burial or funeral context. That means a place where a misfortune or death has happened. Literature can also be applied over there, and I will explain to you how it can be applied. Number four, literature can be applied in cultural activities context, cultural activities or cultural ceremonies context. Number five, literature can be applied in religious context. Number six, literature can also be applied in hospital context. And number seven, literature can be applied in entertainment context. Now, dear students, let me explain one after another. As I told you that literature can be applied in educational context, how can it be applied over there? First, you need to know that literature can be taught as a subject in educational context or in schools, and is in fact taught as a subject. So there, that means literature is applied. But apart from that, apart from being described as a subject, we know that literature cultivates critical thinking among students. So it is very important. So when speaking of literature, literature is very important in educational context. It has to be taught over there, and it has to be learned by students, so that students can gain deeper understanding or deeper critical thinking, which is very much helpful in daily lives. That is number one. Number two, literature can be applied in political contexts. And how? In a political context, literature can be used to criticize political leaders who are doing odds or evils, things that are contrary to the people's expectations. And on that ground, the books like The Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born and The Betrayal in the City has been examples of such literature which are used for in political context. Apart from criticizing in political context, literature is also used to praise. When a political leader does something well, literature can also be used to praise and to convince the mass that a certain person, a certain political leader, a certain government official is doing the best. So literature is used there to praise. Now, apart from political context, of course, before leaving this political context here, you need to know that in political context also literature is used to influence people, to motivate people to make changes or to make revolutions. That is, whenever those readers or those people who are involved in political positions are doing something or things wrongly. So those writers of literature do read their works of art so that they may just convince people to act against those readers. Now, apart from political context, literature can also be applied in burial or funeral contexts. And this is where you come across poems like elegies. And these elegies, if you don't know about elegies are just poems which are used or written to mourn for the dead. They're just written to mourn for the dead. So if a person has died, some people may just cite the work of arts or literature works to mourn for that person who has died. And this is especially to those people who die heroic, those who are heroes, having done things which contributed to the development of the people, and so the people think that it was or the person who was died was very important. So literatures are made for that case and all that context. Now, in a funeral or in a burial context, apart from that, literature is used to console the relatives of the person who has died. Literature is used to console the people of the person who has died. So, when one dies, people, close relatives and friends are always in griefs. They're not happy, they're sad. So literature takes that part of consoling them and telling them that death is sure and nobody will escape it. So when they read or when they just listen to the work of arts or the works of arts, they just get consoled and they just release the emotion of sadness and they somehow become like comfort, Yeah, so that's all about funeral context. Now, apart from that, literature can also be applied in religious context. And of course, in religious context, literature is also there to just to criticize the religious leaders. And we take, for instance, the book like The Trials of Brother Jero, written by Wole Soyinka. The context is religious. It talks much about religious issues, and it is there just to criticize those religious leaders who do different from the expectations of people. We find just religious leaders doing things contrary to the expectations of people, misusing religious resources, and using religions to enrich themselves instead of just instructing people to pray their God. So for that case, in that political arena, literature is used to criticize. There are some of the literatures which are also used to influence people to be followers of a certain religion. It's very important to read literature, because literature serves that purpose too. Now, apart from that, literature is also used in entertainment context. In entertainment context, there are fiestas, concerts which are also initiated, whereby music, because music, I think, is one part of literature. So musics are there to entertain people. So in entertainment, literature is used. That's why you see when you hear songs like, songs like bongo flavors or Nigerian flavors, you just find elements of literature within. And of course, songs are literature. Are literature in itself. Songs are just literature themselves. You find similes, you find metaphors, you find symbols being used over there, figures of speech in general. You find imageries. Nearly every literary device is used in many songs. So literature is just there to add a flavor on the works or music or so. And apart from that, literature can also be applied in hospital contexts. And this is, for example, in the developed countries, literature is used to heal people. It's just to treat people. People with depressions are in those countries, treated using music, or if not music, they're just treated using poems, and that is why, in those developed countries there is something called poetry therapy, something like that. Where art or the work of arts like short stories and poems are used to treat people with those depression problems. And apart from treating people, healing people, literature is also used to console, just to console those people who are in problems, who are in troubles, who are having difficulties, health problems. When those people just listen to good music, or when they just read poems, or when they just read short stories, they relax, they become comfortable. Now, apart from that, apart from dealing with the patients, literature is also used to encourage health workers like doctors and nurses to work diligently and harder. And apart from that, literature is also used to speak about the problems of those health workers, to raise the problems of health workers, so that those readers concerned may work for them. Those literatures may speak about challenges of poor working conditions, and that is made so that those government officials may take actions and help them. And that is why we say literature can be applied in various areas. And lastly, literature can also be applied in cultural activities contexts. cultural activities context include activities like initiation ceremonies, whereby traditional songs, traditional dances are just used over there, and those songs are part of literature, because in oral literature include those oral songs or songs. So in those cultural activities like initiation ceremonies, literature is applied and is helpful in reaching a certain message. So in those environments, literature is used to send a certain message, and sometimes to give confidence to the people, to in doing things, or in just